The wind came first. It always did in Silver Creek Valley, sweeping down from the Chiricahua Mountains like the breath of something ancient and angry. July 1883, and the heat sat on the land like a iron skillet left too long on the fire. 110 degrees by midday, the kind of heat that made lizards seek shade and smart men stay indoors. But Ayanna Chato was neither a lizard nor a man, and she had learned long ago that the land did not care about comfort. She stood at the fence line of her ranch, hammer in hand, driving a nail into split cedar with the kind of precision that came from necessity rather than choice. Sweat traced lines down her temples, darkening the collar of her cotton work shirt. Her hands, calloused and strong, moved with mechanical efficiency. 30 nails, 30 strikes, no wasted motion. The fence was her responsibility now. Everything was her responsibility now. Behind her, the ranch house sat low against the ridge adobe walls, the color of dried blood, a roof of weathered pine that had somehow survived 5 summers since Thomas built it. Her husband, dead now 16 months, thrown from a spooked horse during a thunderstorm, neck broken before he hit the ground. Clean death, the doctor said, as if death could ever be clean. Before that, her son, 3 years old, taken by scarlet fever in the space of 72 hours. She could still hear his cough, still feel the heat of his forehead under her palm, still remember the moment his breathing stopped and the world became a place of silence so profound it felt like drowning. 2 graves under the cottonwood tree, a husband and a son. The only family she had left after the massacre at Cañon de los Embudos, when she was 9 after her Apache mother died, with 30 others cut down by cavalry bullets that did not distinguish between warriors and women, between threats and children. Ayanna drove another nail. The sound echoed across the empty valley. She was 29 years old, and she had learned that survival was not about strength. It was about showing up every morning and doing what needed to be done, even when your hands bled, even when your heart felt like a stone. The ranch was small, 320 acres of scrubland and miracle. The miracle was Willow Springs, a natural spring that flowed cold and clear from a crack in the bedrock, the only water source in 50 miles that never ran dry. Thomas had chosen this land for that reason. Water was life. Water was power. Water was everything. 40 head of cattle grazed on the sparse grass. A dozen goats provided milk. Chickens scratched in the dust near the barn. It was enough, barely, but enough. She checked the sun, 2 hours until dusk. Time to bring the cattle in closer to the house. Time to check the water troughs. Time to cook a meal she would eat alone, sitting at a table that still had 2 empty chairs. That was when she heard it. Gunfire. 3 shots, sharp and distinct, carried on the wind from the south. Then silence. Then more shots, rapid now, the sound of panic rather than precision. Ayanna dropped the hammer. Her hand moved to the Winchester rifle, leaning against the fence post, muscle memory from a childhood spent learning Apache ways. Her mother's people did not wait to understand a threat. They prepared for it. She brought the rifle up, scanning the horizon. The shots had come from Red Canyon, a narrow cut in the hills about 2 miles out. Someone was in trouble, or someone was causing it. Neither was her business. But then she saw them. 2 riders coming fast across the flats. One tall, hunched low over the saddle. The other smaller, clinging to the tall one's back like a shadow. Behind them, 3 more riders in pursuit, kicking up rooster tails of dust, closing the distance. More shots. The lead rider jerked, nearly lost his seat, kept riding. Ayanna made a decision in the space of a heartbeat. Not because she was brave, not because she was kind, but because she had been the one running once and no one had stopped to help. She vaulted onto her paint mare, no saddle, just a rope halter, the way her mother had taught her. Her heels drummed the horse's flanks, and they were moving, flying across the hardpan toward the canyon mouth where the chase would bottleneck. She knew this land, every wash, every stone, every place where a smart person could hide and a foolish person could die. The canyon narrowed to 30 feet across sheer walls on both sides. The fleeing riders plunged into it without hesitation, desperation overriding caution. The pursuers followed. Ayanna reached the high ground above the canyon just as the chase passed below. She could see them clearly now. The man in front was maybe 36, perhaps 37, dust-covered, bleeding from his left arm, a child of perhaps 7 clinging to him with the grip of terror. A girl. Dark hair whipping in the wind, face pressed against the man's back. The 3 men chasing them wore range clothes but carried themselves like hired guns. One of them raised a rifle, taking aim at the man's back, at the child's head. Ayanna did not think. She drew her bow. The Apache do not use guns when silence serves better. Her mother had taught her that. Taught her to string a bow from juniper wood and sinew. Taught her to aim not at where the target was, but where it would be. The arrow flew. It struck the lead pursuer's horse in the haunch, not deep, but enough. The animal screamed and reared, throwing its rider hard into the canyon wall. The other 2 pulled up, confusion breaking their momentum. The fleeing man and child disappeared around the bend. Ayanna did not wait to see more. She wheeled her horse and rode hard for Willow Springs, taking a different path, one that would bring her to the water ahead of the strangers. If they were smart, they would stop there. Everyone stopped at Willow Springs, eventually. It was the only water, and thirst in this country was a death sentence. She reached the spring 10 minutes before they did. By the time the man and child came stumbling through the brush, their horse limping, nearly finished, Ayanna was waiting. She stood in the shade of the cottonwood trees that ringed the spring, her rifle held loose but ready, her face expressionless. The man saw her and froze. He was tall, lean, in the way of men who ate 1 meal a day and worked through the other 2. His face was weathered, creased at the eyes, a scar running from his left cheekbone to his jaw. His shirt was soaked with sweat and blood. His right hand hovered near the pistol at his hip, but he did not draw. Smart man. The child slid from the horse and collapsed, hitting the ground hard. She did not get up. Ayanna stepped forward, rifle barrel dropping slightly. Not trust, just calculation. Who gave you permission to drink from this water? Her voice was flat, unaccented, the English of mission schools, and careful erasure. The man raised both hands, slowly, palms out. I am sorry, ma'am. We just need water, that's all. Just water. She studied him, noted the badge outline on his vest, faded but visible where a star had once been pinned. Noted the calluses on his hands, the careful way he positioned himself between her and the child. Protective, not predatory. The child stirred, tried to rise, fell back. Her lips were cracked, her eyes sunken. Heat, exhaustion. Maybe worse. Ayanna lowered the rifle completely. Bring her to the shade. There is a trough, cold water. Make her drink slowly or she will vomit. The man did not question. He scooped the child up, cradling her with the tenderness of someone who had practice at it, and carried her to the wooden trough fed by the spring. He dipped his hand, brought water to the child's lips, a few drops at a time. Slow Nady, he murmured. Slow baby. The child drank, coughed, drank again. After a moment her eyes opened fully, brown eyes, ancient, in a young face. She looked at Ayanna and flinched. It is all right, the man said quietly. This lady is helping us. Ayanna watched them for a long moment. Then she turned toward the barn. Bring her inside, out of the sun. There is food, not much, but enough. The man hesitated. Ma'am, I don't want to impose. We can rest here and move on. She looked back at him. Those men are still hunting you. They will check the spring. You stay out here, you die, or they find you. Your choice. She walked toward the ranch house without waiting for an answer. Behind her she heard the man speak softly to the child. Heard the girl whisper something back too quiet to catch. Heard footsteps following. Good. She had not saved them to watch them die of stupidity. The inside of the house was dim and cool, thick adobe walls holding back the heat. A single main room with a stone fireplace, a table, 2 chairs, a doorway leading to a small bedroom, another leading to what had once been a pantry and was now just storage. Ayanna gestured to the table. "Sit." The man lowered the child into one of the chairs. She sat stiffly, her eyes darting around the room, taking in everything, trusting nothing, survival instincts. Ayanna recognized them. This child had known fear before today. She poured water into 2 tin cups from a clay jug, set them on the table. Then she moved to the stove where a pot of rabbit stew had been simmering since morning. She ladled portions into 2 bowls, added cornbread from a covered basket. The child stared at the food like it might vanish. "Eat," Ayanna said. The girl did not need to be told twice. She attacked the stew with desperate hunger, shoving bread into her mouth between spoonfuls. The man ate more slowly, methodically, the way soldiers eat, the way people who have gone hungry eat when they finally have food again. Ayanna sat in the 3rd chair, the one she never used, and watched them. After a few minutes, the man set down his spoon. "Thank you. We have not eaten in 2 days. Who were those men? I do not know their names, but I know who sent them." "And who is that?" The man looked at her directly. His eyes were gray, the color of rain clouds, worn with exhaustion and shadowed by ghosts. "A man named Silas Redstone. I worked for him for 2 weeks. He runs cattle, or says he does. What he really does is steal." Ayanna felt something tighten in her chest. She knew that name. Everyone in the territory knew that name. "Redstone brands other people's cattle," the man continued, "then accuses them of theft. He has done it to 3 ranches in the last year, takes their land when they cannot prove the cattle were theirs to begin with." "And you objected?" "I did. I told him what he was doing was illegal. I told him I would report it." The man's jaw tightened. "I used to be a U.S. Marshal, 8 years. I know the law, and I know when a man is breaking it. Used to be. I gave up the badge after my wife died. I could not protect her, so I did not trust myself to protect anyone else." He looked at the child. "Except Nadie. She is all I have left." Ayanna's gaze moved to the girl who had finished eating and was now clutching a small fabric doll, worn nearly shapeless. The child looked back at her with those old eyes. "Where is her mother?" "Dead. Fever took her last year. We buried her in New Mexico. Been moving ever since. Looking for work. Looking for a place to stop." Silence settled over the table. Outside, cicadas began their evening song. Finally, Ayanna stood. "You can stay the night. There is a loft in the barn. Hay and blankets. Your horse is finished for today. Let it rest." The man rose slowly. "Thank you, Mrs." He paused. "I am sorry. I did not ask your name." "Ayanna Chato." Recognition flickered across his face. "You are Apache." "Half. My mother was Chiricahua. My father I never knew. I was raised by missionaries after my mother died. I married a white man. He is dead now, too. So I am just myself. Nothing more." The man nodded. "I am Samuel Bridger. Everyone calls me Sam. And this is Nadie. We are pleased to meet you, Mrs. Chato, even under these circumstances." "Just Ayanna. Mrs. Chato is a ghost." She moved to the door, opened it. The evening light poured in golden and thick. "Be ready before dawn. If Redstone's men come, they will come at first light." Sam hesitated. "Why are you helping us?" She looked at him, really looked. Saw the exhaustion carved into his face, saw the way he kept one hand on Nadie's shoulder, anchoring himself to something that mattered. Saw the badge outline on his vest, the ghost of who he used to be. "Because someone should have helped me once," she said quietly, "and no one did." She stepped outside and closed the door behind her. The sun was setting now, painting the hills in shades of rust and shadow. Ayanna walked to the graves under the cottonwood tree and stood there until the stars came out. She did not pray. She had stopped praying the day her son died. But she spoke to the silence anyway. "I saved 2 people today," she said to the graves. "I do not know why. I do not know if it matters, but I did it." The wind picked up, rustling through the dry grass. From the barn she heard the low murmur of Sam's voice singing something soft to Nady, a lullaby perhaps, or a prayer. Ayanna turned back to the house. For the first time in 16 months, there were voices in her home. For the first time since her son died, a child slept under her roof. It changed nothing. It changed everything. She did not sleep that night. She sat by the window rifle across her lap watching the darkness, waiting. Dawn came without mercy. The sky split open with light harsh and immediate the way it always did in the high desert. No gentle transition from night to day, just darkness and then fire. Ayanna had been awake for hours. She had learned long ago that sleep was a luxury, something you borrowed but never owned. Too many nights spent listening for sounds that should not be there. Too many mornings waking to find the world rearranged while you rested. She stood on the porch, coffee in hand, watching the ridgeline. The air was already hot thick with the promise of another brutal day. Behind her, she heard movement from the barn, Sam emerging probably. The man moved quietly for someone his size, but not quietly enough to fool someone trained to track. He appeared a minute later, Nady trailing behind him, rubbing sleep from her eyes. The girl clutched her doll in one hand, her other hand gripping her father's shirt. Sam saw Ayanna and nodded. "Morning. There is coffee and eggs. The chickens gave 4 today. You did not have to. The chickens do not care about hospitality. They lay eggs or they do not. Today they did." She turned back toward the house. "Come, eat before the sun makes it too hot to think." Inside she had set out a simple breakfast. Scrambled eggs, more cornbread, goat's milk for Nady. Sam sat positioned so he could see both doors, his back to the wall. Lawman habits. They never went away. Nady ate slowly this time, no longer starving, just hungry. She looked up at Ayanna with those careful eyes. "Do you have any children?" the girl asked quietly. Sam stiffened. "Nady, that is not—" "I did," Ayanna said. She poured more coffee, her movements deliberate. "A son. He died 3 years ago. Fever. He was very small." Nady considered this. "That is sad. Yes? Do you miss him?" "Every day." The girl nodded, as if this made perfect sense. "I miss my mama every day, too." Something cracked open in Ayanna's chest. Just a little. Just enough to hurt. Sam cleared his throat. "We should talk about what comes next. Those men who were chasing us. They work for Redstone. They will not stop because we got away. Men like that do not stop until they finish the job or someone makes them stop." "Why does Redstone want you dead?" "Because I know what he is doing. Cattle rustling is one thing, but he is doing something bigger. He is buying up land, forcing people off their ranches, not because he wants to run cattle, because he wants to sell to the railroad." Ayanna set down her cup. "The Southern Pacific. You know? Everyone knows. The railroad is coming through New Mexico territory. Whoever controls the land controls the water. Whoever controls the water names the price." Sam leaned forward. "Your land has the spring, Willow Springs. I noticed the water troughs, the green grass where there should be only dust. This is what Redstone wants. He has tried to buy it 3 times. I said no 3 times. And the last time he threatened me, said accidents happen to women living alone, said barns catch fire, cattle wander off, people disappear." She met Sam's eyes. "I sent a letter to the land office in Las Cruces asking them to confirm my land boundaries. They replied very slowly, said they would look into it." Sam's expression darkened. "Which means Redstone got to them first." "Perhaps. Not perhaps, certainly." He stood moved to the window. "I know how this works. I spent 8 years watching men like Redstone operate. They buy the law before they break it. Easier that way. Cleaner." Nady had stopped eating. She looked between them, understanding more than a 7-year-old should. Ayanna stood as well. "What would you do if you were still a marshal? Gather evidence. Build a case. Take it to a judge who could not be bought." He turned back. "But I am not a marshal anymore. And you are one woman on a remote ranch. Redstone has money men and probably half the county office on his payroll. So I should run." I am not saying that. Then what are you saying? Sam was quiet for a long moment. When he spoke, his voice was softer. I am saying that if you want to fight, you do not fight alone. And you do not fight with just a rifle. You fight with the law. Make him defend himself in court. Public record. Witnesses. Make it costly for him to take what is yours. I am Apache, or half Apache. Courts do not favor people like me. Courts favor evidence. And we can get evidence. Sam looked at her steadily. I owe you my daughter's life. That is a debt that matters. If you will have us, we will stay. Help you prepare. Help you fight. Whatever you need. Ayanna studied him, saw the sincerity there, also saw the exhaustion, the need to stop running, to plant feet somewhere and make a stand. Not just for her, for himself, for Nady. You think we can win? I think we can make him bleed, and sometimes that is enough. Before Ayanna could respond, Nady spoke up. I can help too. I am good at remembering things, and I can be very quiet. People do not notice me. Sam smiled despite himself. She is right. Nady has a gift for being invisible when she wants to be, and her memory is remarkable. Ayanna looked at the child, saw the intelligence there, saw the need to be useful, to matter. She understood that need. Then we work together, Ayanna said. For now, we will see what comes. Sam extended his hand. Ayanna shook it. His grip was firm, honest. Outside a horse whinnied. All three of them froze. Sam moved to the window, staying to the side of the frame. 3 riders, coming from the south. Ayanna grabbed her rifle. Nady, the root cellar. Under the floor in the pantry. Go now. Do not come out until your father says. The girl did not argue. She ran. Sam pulled his pistol, checked the cylinder. You keep a shotgun. In the barn. I will get it. Cover the front. He was out the door before she could object. Moving fast, bent low, using the water trough for cover. He reached the barn and disappeared inside. Ayanna positioned herself at the window, rifle ready. She could see the riders clearly now. 3 men moving at an easy walk. Not the desperate pursuit of yesterday. This was different. This was a message. They stopped at the gate 30 yards out. The man in the lead was lean and hard-looking, wearing a long black duster despite the heat. His face was angular, scarred, the kind of face that had seen violence and enjoyed it. He removed his hat, revealing hair slicked back with pomade. Mrs. Chatto, he called out. My name is Brady Crane. I work for Mr. Silas Redstone. Ayanna did not answer. Crane smiled. I know you are in there, ma'am. Saw the smoke from your stove. Just want to talk. Peaceful-like. Sam emerged from the barn, shotgun cradled in his arms, positioning himself to the side, creating crossfire if it came to that. Crane's eyes flicked to him. The smile did not waver. Well now, look who crawled out of the ditch. Sam Bridger. Thought you would have kept running. I got tired of running, Sam said evenly. That is a shame. Running keeps a man healthy, especially a man who made Mr. Redstone angry. Crane shifted in his saddle. Here is the situation. Mr. Redstone is a reasonable man. He wants to have a civil conversation with Mrs. Chatto about purchasing her land. Seems there has been a misunderstanding about property lines. Ayanna stepped onto the porch, rifle held low but ready. There is no misunderstanding. My husband purchased this land legally in 1876. I have the deed. The land office has the records. The boundaries are clear. See, that is where things get complicated. Crane pulled a folded paper from his coat. According to the updated survey, Willow Spring sits on what is technically Mr. Redstone's property. Now we know you have been using the water in good faith. No one blames you, but legally it belongs to him. That is a lie. Crane's smile thinned. Careful, ma'am. That is a serious accusation. It is the truth. Well, truth is a slippery thing, is it not? He refolded the paper, tucked it away. Here is another truth. We found 14 head of cattle with Redstone's brand on your land yesterday. Cattle theft is a hanging offense in this territory. I inventoried my herd 3 days ago, Sam said, voice hard. Every cow, every calf. There were no Redstone cattle here. Crane turned his attention to Sam. "And you would be a reliable witness, a man who abandoned his job and ran out on his employer. I quit. There is a difference." "Not in court, there is not." Crane leaned forward, saddle leather creaking. "Let me make this simple. Mr. Redstone is offering Mrs. Chateau a fair price for this land. More than fair. She takes the money, leaves quietly. Everyone is happy. No lawyers, no judges, no trouble." "And if I refuse?" Ayanna asked. Crane looked at the house, at the barn, at the empty land stretching away on all sides. "This is a big valley, ma'am. Lot of things can happen. Fires, accidents. People get lost in the canyons. Would be a real shame if something happened to this nice little setup you have." His eyes drifted toward the barn. "Or to that little girl I saw peeking out earlier." The temperature dropped 10 degrees. Sam took one step forward, shotgun rising slightly. His voice when he spoke was flat and cold. "You threaten that child again, and they will never find your body. This land is big like you said, easy to disappear." Crane held his gaze for a long moment. Something like respect flickered behind his eyes, or maybe it was fear. "Just delivering a message," he said finally. "What you do with it is your business." He turned his horse. "We will be seeing you folks around." The three men rode off, not hurrying, making a point with their leisure. Sam did not lower the shotgun until they were out of rifle range. Ayanna called softly toward the barn, "Nady, you can come out." The girl emerged from the root cellar, her face pale but composed. She walked to her father, and he put his arm around her shoulders. "They are going to come back," Ayanna said. It was not a question. "Yes, and next time they will not talk first." "How long do we have?" "Tonight, maybe tomorrow night. Redstone will want to make an example, break you publicly, show the other ranchers what happens when you refuse him." Ayanna looked at her land, at the spring flowing clear and cold, at the cottonwood trees swaying in the hot wind, at the two graves beneath them. "Then we prepare," she said, "and we make it costly." Sam nodded. "I will teach you how to set up defensive positions, where to put water barrels in case of fire, how to signal for help if we get separated. We will need more than defense. We will need to attack, legally." "Agreed. But first we survive. Then we fight." He looked down at Nady. "You remember what I taught you about the warning whistle. 3 short, 1 long. Run to the hiding place." "Good girl." He met Ayanna's eyes. "We should bury some supplies. Food, water, ammunition. In case we need to leave fast or hold out for days. There is a cave, North Ridge. My people used it generations ago. Natural spring inside. Hidden entrance. You are full of surprises. I am Apache. We know how to survive." She started toward the house. "Come, we have work to do." They spent the morning preparing. Sam showed Nady how to stack ammunition crates for cover, how to keep low, how to move from window to window without silhouetting herself. Ayanna gathered supplies, loading them into saddlebags that could be grabbed in seconds. By noon, the temperature had climbed past 110. They rested in the shade of the porch, drinking water, conserving energy. That was when the old man appeared. He was simply there, standing at the edge of the cottonwood grove, as if he had materialized from the air itself. Ancient, weathered, wearing traditional Apache clothing that marked him as someone who had rejected the reservation life. Ayanna stood immediately. "Chase." The old man approached slowly, his movements economical, wasting no energy. He stopped 10 feet away, his eyes moving from Ayanna to Sam to Nady and back. He spoke in Apache. Ayanna responded in the same language. Sam watched, understanding nothing, reading everything in their body language. The conversation lasted 5 minutes. When it ended, Chase reached into the leather bag he carried and withdrew a rolled hide. He handed it to Ayanna. She unrolled it carefully. It was a map, hand-drawn in natural pigments on tanned deerskin. Ancient, detailed. "What is that?" Sam asked. "Apache land boundaries, from before the Spanish came, before Mexico, before America." She traced a line with her finger. "This shows the true course of the water, where it rises, where it flows, the boundaries my people have known for 1,000 years. Will it hold up in court? It is older than the court." She looked up. "But it is something. Evidence that the land office records are wrong, that Redstone's claim is false." Sam studied the map. "We need the official records too, the land deeds, the survey notes, anything that shows when the boundaries were changed and who authorized it." "That means going to town, to La Mesilla." "Yes. They do not welcome Apache in La Mesilla." "Then we go together, you, me, and Nady. A family traveling, less conspicuous than a woman alone." Ayanna looked at him sharply. He met her gaze steadily. "We are not a family. For now, we could be." He gestured to the map. "This is our best weapon, but we need to use it before Redstone destroys the real records, which he will do if he has not already." She knew he was right. Hated that he was right, but knew. "Tomorrow," she said. "We leave at dawn. It is 15 miles. We can be there by mid-morning. Search the land office. Be back by dark. And if they try to stop us," Ayanna rolled the map carefully, "then they try." That evening, as the sun set in a blaze of copper and gold, the three of them sat on the porch and ate a simple meal. Beans and cornbread, coffee for the adults, milk for Nady. The child surprised them both by asking, "If we are pretending to be a family, can I call you Mother?" Ayanna froze her cup halfway to her lips. Sam spoke gently. "Nady, that is complicated." "Why, if we are pretending?" "Because it matters," Ayanna said quietly. She set down her cup, looked at the girl, really looked, saw her son's eyes, saw every child who had ever needed someone, and found no one. Because a name like that means something. You do not use it to trick people. Nady's face fell. Ayanna reached out, hesitated, then placed her hand on the girl's head. "But if you want to call me that for real, not for pretending, you may. If your father agrees." Sam's voice was rough. "I agree." Nady's smile could have lit the valley. That night, for the first time since her son died, Ayanna fell asleep to the sound of a child breathing in the next room. For the first time in 16 months, the house did not feel like a tomb. But she did not let herself hope. Hope was dangerous. Hope got you killed. Outside, the stars wheeled overhead. Somewhere in the darkness, Redstone's men were planning. Somewhere the land was holding its breath. And Ayanna Chato, daughter of Apache warriors and missionary charity, widow and survivor, sat with her rifle across her lap and waited for the dawn. The road to La Mesilla cut through country that God had forgotten or never bothered to finish. 15 miles of cracked earth and scattered stone heat shimmering off the ground like water that was not there, would never be there. Ayanna rode in front, her paint mare moving with the steady rhythm of an animal that knew how to conserve energy. Sam followed on his roan, Nady sitting behind him, her small arms wrapped around his waist, her doll tucked into her shirt. They had left before dawn when the air still held a memory of coolness. Now 2 hours into the journey, the sun was a hammer beating down on an anvil, and the only sound was hoofbeats and the creak of saddle leather. Nady broke the silence. "Are there really bad men in the town?" Sam's voice was patient, the voice of a father who had answered this question before. "There are bad men everywhere, sunshine, but there are also good men. The trick is knowing which is which. How do you know? You watch what they do when they think no one is looking. That tells you everything." Ayanna glanced back. The girl was alert despite the heat, her eyes scanning the horizon with the wariness of someone twice her age. Survival training, whether she knew it or not. Children learned fast when their lives depended on it. They passed an abandoned homestead around mid-morning. Just a collapsed roof and walls returning to dust. A failed dream, one of thousands scattered across the territory. People came west with hope and shovels, and the land ate both. "Did people die there?" Nady asked. "Probably just moved on," Sam said. "Sometimes the land wins, and you accept it. But we are not moving on. No, we are not. Why? Ayanna answered before Sam could. Because some things are worth fighting for, even when the fight seems impossible. Around mid-morning, they stopped to water the horses at a small seep barely visible in the rocks. While the animals drank, Sam produced a small paper bag from his saddle. "What is that?" Nady asked. "Something I bought yesterday in the general store, before all the excitement." He opened the bag. Inside were 3 peppermint sticks striped red and white. Nady's eyes went wide. She had probably not had candy in months. Sam handed her one, for being brave, for not complaining about the heat or the long ride. The girl took it reverently, as if it were made of gold. She licked it once, slowly savoring. Then she looked at Ayanna. "Do you want one? I should not take your candy." "Papa bought 3, one for each of us." She held it out, insistent. Ayanna took it. The sweetness exploded on her tongue, sharp and clean. She had not tasted peppermint since Thomas died. He used to bring her peppermints from town, a small ritual, a small kindness. "Thank you," she said quietly. They rode on. The peppermint lasted another hour, and for that hour the world felt a little less hard. La Mesilla appeared on the horizon just before noon. A cluster of adobe buildings huddled against the desert like they were trying to hide from the sun. Population maybe 200, mostly Mexican and white, with a handful of Chinese who worked the laundries and a few Pueblo who kept to themselves. Apache were not welcome unless they had a white sponsor. One of many unwritten rules that everyone understood. As they rode down the main street, Ayanna felt eyes on her, always the same, that particular kind of stare that said, "You do not belong here, you are not one of us, you are other." She had felt it in every town she had ever entered, had felt it even at her own wedding, when half the guests whispered about Thomas marrying a squaw. She kept her face neutral, let them stare. She had buried a husband and a child. Their opinions could not touch her. A woman in a faded calico dress crossed the street pulling her young son with her. As they passed, the woman jerked the boy away from Ayanna as if Apache were contagious. The boy stared curious and afraid. Nady saw it. Her small hand found Ayanna's stirrup, touching the leather as if to say, "I am here. You are not alone." Sam guided them to the general store, dismounted, helped Nady down. "We need supplies," he said to Ayanna. "Food, ammunition, lamp oil. Make it look like we are just provisioning." And then, land office, 2 blocks east, red building. I saw it last time I passed through. They split up. Sam and Nady entered the store. Ayanna stayed with the horses, ostensibly checking their hooves, actually watching the street, looking for Redstone's men, looking for trouble. A few minutes later, another figure approached, female mid-30s, wearing range clothes and a hat pulled low. Rosa Mendoza. Ayanna had not seen her in 8 months, not since Thomas's funeral. Rosa stopped, looked at Ayanna, and her weathered face split into a grin. "I thought you were dead or had finally given up that damn stubborn ranch." "Neither." "Good." Rosa glanced at the store. "Who is the gringo with the little girl? Someone helping me." "With what?" "Staying alive." Rosa's grin faded. "Redstone." It was not a question. "He wants the land. He is using the usual methods." "Bastard!" Rosa spat into the dust. "He did the same to my husband 2 years ago, accused Miguel of cattle theft. Miguel went to prove his innocence and never came back. They found him in a canyon 3 weeks later, said he fell off his horse. But Miguel was the best horseman in the valley." Ayanna had heard the story, had not known what to say then, still did not know now. Rosa looked at her hard. "You are going to fight him." "I am going to try." "Alone?" "With help." "Then you have more help now." Rosa stepped closer, lowered her voice. "Listen to me. Redstone is not just stealing land. He is building something. My brother Tomas works construction in Las Cruces." He heard talk. Redstone is buying up the entire southern route, every piece of land the railroad will need, for water rights, for everything. Water right-of-way supply stations. When the Southern Pacific comes through, Redstone will own the route. He will be able to charge whatever he wants, millions of dollars. The scope of it hit Ayanna like cold water. This was not just about her land. This was about controlling an entire territory, about reshaping the future. Sam emerged from the store carrying the supplies, Nady trailing behind with her peppermints. He saw Rosa read the situation, approached carefully. "Sam Bridger," he said, introducing himself, "friend of Ayanna's." Rosa sized him up in 2 seconds. "Rosa Mendoza, also friend of Ayanna's. You the one helping her fight Redstone, trying to." "Good, because she will need an army, not just one washed-up marshal." Rosa caught Sam's wince. "I know who you are. Everyone knows. You were the marshal who cleaned up Silver City. Then your wife died and you disappeared. People talk. People always do. What they do not talk about is how to beat Redstone, but I have been thinking about it for 2 years, and I have ideas." She looked between them. "You going to the land office?" "Yes. Then you need to see Father Castillo first, at San Albino Church. He has records, old records, Spanish land grants, water rights, burial plots. If anyone changed the boundaries, there will be evidence of the original lines in the church archives." Ayanna felt something shift, a piece falling into place. "Why are you helping?" "Because Miguel deserves justice, and because I am tired of being afraid." Rosa's jaw tightened. "And because someone needs to stand up, might as well be us." They went to the church first. San Albino was small, whitewashed adobe with a simple cross above the door. Inside it was cool and dim, smelling of candle wax and old incense. Father Castillo was in his 70s, bent with age but sharp-eyed. He listened to their request, then nodded slowly. "I remember when Thomas Hartley purchased that land. Good man. He came here for the baptism records, wanted to see the old Spanish deeds, said he wanted to make sure everything was legal before he built." "Do you still have those records?" Sam asked. "Everything is recorded. Everything is kept." The old priest led them to a back room, shelves lined with leather-bound ledgers and loose papers wrapped in string. "Here, 1821, the original land grant from the Spanish crown, before Mexico, before America." He laid out a yellow document, the ink faded, but still legible. Sam leaned over it, tracing the boundaries with his finger. "This shows Willow Springs clearly within the Hartley parcel. No question." Father Castillo produced another document. "And here is the survey from 1874, when the Americans took control. Same boundaries. Nothing changed." "Can we take these?" Ayanna asked. "I can make copies, certified copies with the church seal. It will take an hour." "We will wait." While Father Castillo worked in his small office scratching copies with careful precision, they sat in the pews. The quiet wrapped around them like a blanket. Outside, the world was heat and dust and violence. In here for a moment there was peace. Nady fell asleep against Sam's shoulder, her doll clutched tight. Sam stroked her hair absently, his eyes distant. Ayanna stared at the altar, at the simple wooden cross, and tried to remember the last time she had prayed. Her mother had prayed to Apache spirits. Thomas had prayed to the Christian God. Their son had been too young to pray for anything except his mother when he was frightened. None of it had helped. "Do you believe?" Sam asked quietly, following her gaze. "I do not know what I believe. I used to think I knew. Now I am not sure. My wife believed, went to church every Sunday, read scripture every night. It did not save her." "No, it did not. But she died believing she was going somewhere better, and maybe that is worth something." Ayanna considered this. "Or maybe it is just a story we tell ourselves so the pain makes sense." "Maybe. But I have been living without stories for 2 years now, and I can tell you the world is colder without them." They sat in silence until Father Castillo returned with 3 copies of the documents, each stamped with the church seal and signed in his careful hand. "This should help your case. the priest said. "But be careful. Redstone has powerful friends. He has given money to build a new school to repair roads. People owe him favors." "We understand. Do you? Because favors are currency in this territory, and Redstone is very rich." They left the church and walked the 2 blocks to the land office, a plain wooden building, sun-bleached and sagging. Inside, a single clerk sat behind a desk, sweating through his shirt despite the relative cool. His name was Harrison, pale, overweight, nervous. His eyes widened when he saw Ayanna, then widened further when he saw Sam's steady gaze. "Can I help you?" His voice cracked slightly. Sam stepped forward, his presence filling the small room. "We need to see the survey records for Silver Creek Valley, specifically the parcels near Willow Springs." Those records are being updated, not available for public viewing right now. Federal law requires land records to be open to the public at all times. Homestead Act of 1862, Section 4. Would you like me to ride to Santa Fe and get a U.S. Marshal to explain that to you? Because I still have friends in Santa Fe. Good friends. Harrison paled to the color of the old newspaper. Let me check." He disappeared into the back room. They heard shuffling papers, muttered curses, something falling. When he returned, his hands were shaking. He carried a large ledger and several folded maps. Sam opened the ledger with the care of someone who knew what he was looking for. The current survey showed the boundary line shifted, placing Willow Springs on Redstone's side by almost a quarter mile. But something was wrong. Sam could see it immediately. The ink was different colors. Blue at the beginning of the entry, black halfway through. The handwriting changed mid-sentence from a neat copperplate to something cruder, shakier. And the paper itself, when he held it up to the window, showed a difference. The original page had been carefully sliced along the margin, a new section glued in. "This has been altered," he said flatly. "Recently, within the last month, I would guess." Harrison's Adam's apple bobbed like a fish on a line. "I don't know anything about that. You do not have to know. I can see it. Different ink, different hand, different paper stock. This is forgery, criminal forgery of government documents." Sam leaned forward. "Who authorized this change? I cannot say. Cannot or will not." Harrison's eyes darted to the door, to the windows, to anywhere but Sam's face. "Please, I have a family. My wife, my children, 3 daughters. The youngest is only 6. "Who threatened them?" "I did not say anyone threatened." "You did not have to." Sam's voice softened slightly. "I was a marshal. I know the look. I have seen it 100 times. Someone put fear in you. Someone made you choose between your job and your family." Harrison closed his eyes. When he opened them again, tears streaked down his cheeks. "They came to my house. 2 of them. In the middle of the night. They stood at my daughter's window. Just stood there. Did not say anything. Did not have to." The message was clear. Redstone's men. I never saw their faces, but yes, had to be. Ayanna leaned forward now. "We are not asking you to testify against him, not yet. But we need you to sign a statement, a simple statement saying this record was recently modified, that the ink and paper do not match the original entry. Nothing more. Can you do that?" Harrison looked at her, saw the determination there, also saw the fear, the same fear he carried, the fear of losing everything. "If I do this, you have to promise. Promise my family will be safe." "I promise nothing except that we will fight him in court, legally, with evidence. If we win, he will have no power over you or anyone else. If we lose," she paused, "if we lose, it will not matter what you signed. He will take what he wants anyway." The logic was brutal, also undeniable. Harrison sat very still for a long moment. Then with shaking hands he pulled out a sheet of official paper. He wrote out a brief statement, dated, it signed his name. His signature wobbled, but was legible. Sam took it, folded it carefully into his pocket. "Thank you. What you did today took courage. What I did today might have killed my family. Or saved them. We will see." They left quickly before Harrison could change his mind or someone could stop them. Outside, the heat hit like a fist. The sun had reached its peak, merciless and white. Nady woke with a small cry, disoriented. "It is all right," Sam murmured. "We are done here." Rosa was waiting with the horses, standing in the shade of the general store awning. "Did you get what you needed?" "Some of it." Sam showed her the documents. "Enough to challenge him in court." "Maybe." "Then we need a lawyer." "We tried that," Ayanna said. "No one will take the case. They are either on Redstone's payroll or too afraid to oppose him." "Then you represent yourself." "Sam, you know the law. You argue it." "I am not a lawyer. I am a former marshal. The judge might not even allow it." "Judge Harrow is old school. He cares about justice, not credentials. If you know the law, he will listen." Rosa mounted her horse. "Come on. We are wasting daylight. And we need to get back before Redstone realizes what we are doing." They rode hard on the return journey, pushing the horses faster than was wise in the heat, but not having a choice. Every hour they stayed in town was another hour for word to reach Redstone. About 5 miles from the ranch, riding through a narrow canyon, they heard hoofbeats behind them. Sam looked back. 4 riders coming fast. "Go!" he shouted. "Get to the ranch." They kicked their horses into a gallop. The narrow canyon walls blurred past. The hoofbeats behind them grew louder. Then gunfire. A bullet whined off a rock to their left. Another kicked up dust ahead of them. They burst out of the canyon onto open ground, 1/2 mile to the ranch. So close. Too far. More gunfire. Sam's horse stumbled, but recovered. They were not aiming to kill, not yet, just to frighten, to herd. Then ahead, more riders appeared, coming from the ranch. For one terrible moment, Ayanna thought they were trapped. Then she recognized the lead rider, Tomas, Rosa's brother. Behind him, 4 more men from the Mexican community, all armed. The 2 groups met in a thunder of dust and shouting. Tomas positioned his men between the pursuers and Ayanna's group. "You want them? You go through us," he shouted. The 4 pursuers, seeing themselves suddenly outnumbered, pulled up. Their leader, a young man with a scarred face, spat. "This is not over. It never is with you people." Tomas fired his rifle into the air. "Now ride before I decide to stop warning." They rode. At the ranch, everyone dismounted in a rush. Ayanna's hands were shaking from adrenaline. Nady was crying quietly. Sam held her, murmuring reassurances. Tomas explained. "Rosa sent word yesterday. Asked me to gather men and watch the approaches. Good thing I did." "Thank you," Ayanna said. "You saved our lives. You are fighting for all of us. The least we can do is watch your back." That evening, as the sun painted the sky in shades of blood and fire, they discovered the message. Sam had gone to check the barn to put away the saddles. He called out, his voice tight. They all came running, written on the barn wall in charcoal. Block letters, 3 words: "Leave or burn." Below it, drawn crude but effective, a picture of the house engulfed in flames. Nady pressed against Ayanna, her small body trembling. Ayanna put her arm around the girl, feeling the fierce protectiveness that came with being a mother. She had lost 1 child. She would not lose another. "When?" Rosa asked. Sam examined the ground. "Boot prints, 3 different sets. They were here maybe 2 hours ago while we were gone. Walked around, looked at everything, left the message." "Why not just burn it then?" "Because they want fear first. Want us to imagine it. To lie awake, thinking about it. Psychological warfare." Sam turned to face them all. "This changes things. They know we went to the land office. They know we are building a case. And now they are threatening to escalate to fire." "So what do we do?" Tomas asked. Ayanna stepped forward. "We do what we came to do. We file with the court tomorrow. Force Redstone into the open. Make this a public fight, not a hidden one. And tonight we prepare for war." They worked through the night, like soldiers before a battle. Sam and Tomas, along with 3 other men from the Mexican community who had stayed, turned the ranch into a fortress. They dug shallow trenches behind the water troughs, stacked feed sacks to create barriers that would stop bullets, cleared the brush within 50 yards of the buildings, eliminating cover for attackers. They filled every barrel bucket and trough with water, soaked burlap sacks, and hung them ready. Fire was the real enemy now. Fire did not need to be aimed. In the house, Ayanna and Rosa went through everything systematically. What could be saved if they had to evacuate? What was essential? What was just memory? The land deed went into a waterproof pouch, the church documents, Harrison's statement, Thomas's pocket watch, the small wooden horse he had carved for their son. These things went into saddlebags that hung ready by the door. Nady helped where she could. She carried ammunition from the barn, counting each box carefully, filled canteens, moved supplies. Around midnight, while the men took a water break, Ayanna taught Nady something her mother had taught her. If men come with fire, you do not run into the open. Fire makes light. Light makes you visible. You move low. You move toward water. You become part of the shadows. Like being invisible. Exactly like that. Mama taught me that too, before she died. She said small people can disappear if they are smart. Your mother was wise. She was scared a lot, but she was wise too. Ayanna hugged the girl. Being scared and being brave are not opposites. Sometimes they are the same thing. By 2 a.m, they were as ready as they could be. Sam called everyone together in the house for a final briefing. "Here is what we know," he began. His voice was steady, the voice of someone who had given orders before. "Redstone wants this land. He has tried legal intimidation. That failed. He has tried threats. We did not leave. Now he will escalate. Fire is the most likely. Maybe direct violence. Probably both." "How long do we have?" Rosa asked. "Tonight, maybe tomorrow night. Not longer. We filed official documents today. Harrison's statement, the church records. That puts Redstone on a clock. The longer he waits, the more those documents get seen by people he does not control. So we expect them tonight. We should. But I have been wrong before." Sam looked at each person in turn. 2-person shifts. 4 hours each. No fires after dark. No lights visible from outside. Anyone approaches, we challenge them at 100 yards. No one, and I mean no one, gets close enough to throw a torch. Ayanna added, "And in the morning, assuming we survive, we ride to Judge Harrow. We file formally, force Redstone to answer in court." "You think Harrow will hear it?" Tomas asked. "He will. He is honest. One of maybe 3 honest men left in this territory." They drew lots for watch shifts. Ayanna and Sam drew first watch. Rosa and Tomas would take second. The others would rest and be ready as backup. Nady had to be convinced to go to the root cellar. "I can help," she insisted. Her small jaw was set stubborn. Sam knelt to her level. "You help by being where I do not have to worry about you. If I am thinking about whether you are safe, I cannot focus on keeping us all alive. Understand, but I do not want to hide. Hiding is not cowardice. Hiding is strategy. The Apache survived for centuries because they knew when to fight and when to disappear. Right now, you disappear." Nady looked at Ayanna for support. Ayanna shook her head gently. "Your father is right, and I need you safe because—" She paused, the words catching. "Because I cannot lose another child." The girl's eyes widened. Then she hugged Ayanna fiercely. "I will hide, but I will listen. And if you need me, I will come." Deal. They settled Nady in the root cellar with blankets, water her doll, and a small knife for emergencies. Sam showed her how to bar the door from inside. "If someone comes who is not me or Ayanna, you stay hidden. You stay silent, no matter what you hear. Promise me." "I promise." Ayanna closed the hatch and covered it with the rug. Unless someone knew it was there, they would never find it. The night was enormous. Clear skies, stars so bright they cast shadows. No moon yet. That would come later, around 4 a.m. Sam took the north side of the property, positioning himself behind the barn, where he had sight lines to the main approach and the canyon mouth. Ayanna took the south behind the house, watching the ridge and the open desert. They could see each other across the yard, had worked out signals. 3 fingers raised meant riders approaching. Fist meant take cover. Open hand meant all clear. The hours crawled. Around 1 in the morning, coyotes started howling in the hills, not close, but audible. Their voices rose and fell, primitive and eerie. Around 2, the cattle began to stir, restless, nervous. Animals knew when something was wrong. Around 2:30, Ayanna heard it. Horses, multiple horses, moving slowly, trying for stealth, failing because horses are large animals, and large animals make sound. She gave the signal. 3 fingers. Sam responded. Ready. From the bunkhouse where Tomas and the others slept, figures emerged. They had been sleeping in their clothes, boots on. Now they moved to preset positions, smooth and efficient. The riders came from the east, 6 of them spread in a loose line. They carried torches, the flames casting jumping, nightmarish shadows across the scrubland. They stopped 300 yards out, too far for accurate rifle fire in the dark. Close enough to be seen, close enough to make their point. One of them shouted. A young voice, cruel and eager. Mrs. Chatto, your time is up. We gave you a chance, now you burn. Sam stood from behind the water trough, rifle shouldered but not aimed. First torch you throw, I put a bullet in whoever throws it. I was a U.S. Marshal for 8 years. I have killed men at twice this distance in worse light. Try me. Laughter from the riders. You are 1 old man with a rifle. We are 6. Count again. Tomas stepped into view from the barn, then Rosa from behind the feed shed. Then the other 3 men positioned at intervals, all armed. The laughter died. Sam continued, his voice carrying across the distance. Now it is 6 of you and 7 of us, and we are defending our home. You are committing arson. Which one of you wants to die for Silas Redstone's money? Silence. The riders conferred among themselves, their voices too low to hear. Then another voice, older and more measured. We are not here to kill anyone, just following orders. Burn some wood, send a message. Ayanna stood as well, rifle ready. The message is received. Now here is mine. I have filed official documents with Judge Harrow, land deeds, survey records, witness statements. If you burn my property, you are destroying evidence in a federal land dispute. That is a federal crime. 10 years minimum in Leavenworth Prison. She was bluffing about the filing. They had not done it yet. But the riders did not know that. More conferring. The torches wavered, doubt spreading like disease. You are lying, the young voice again. Am I? You want to bet 10 years in a federal prison to find out? Because I will still be here tomorrow, and the day after, and the documents are already filed. Burning my barn will not change that. More silence, longer this time. Then hoofbeats. A single rider approaching from a different direction. No torch, just the faint jingle of spurs and tack. Brady Crane rode into view, his face grim in the starlight. He looked at the 6 men with their torches, then at the defenders behind their barricades. Stand down, he said quietly. But Crane, Mr. Redstone said, I know what he said. I am changing the orders. Stand down. Go back to the ranch now. He is going to be angry. Let him. I am sick of burning women out of their homes. Crane turned his horse to face the defenders. This buys you 1 night, maybe 2, but Redstone is not going to stop. He will find another way. Sam called back, then let him try legally, in court, in daylight. Crane laughed, bitter and weary. You think courts stop men like Redstone. You are more naive than I thought. He paused. But maybe you are right. Maybe courts are the only thing left that works. He wheeled his horse and rode into the darkness. After a moment's hesitation, the other 6 followed their torches, growing distant, then disappearing entirely. No one moved for a full minute. Then Tomas let out a breath. What just happened? Crane disobeyed a direct order, Sam said slowly, which means either he is having second thoughts or he is playing a deeper game. Or, Ayanna added, he is just tired. Sometimes men get tired of being monsters. They maintained the watch until dawn, but no one else came. As the sun rose, Nady emerged from the root cellar, blinking in the light. Did they come? They came. Did you fight them? We made them leave without fighting. Nady considered this. That is better, right? Because nobody died. Yes, Ayanna said. That is much better. But Sam's face was troubled. He drew Ayanna aside while the others prepared breakfast. Crane disobeying orders is a problem. How is that a problem? He saved us. Because it means Redstone is losing control of his own men. And when powerful men lose control, they do desperate things. We need to move fast. Get to Harrow today. Make this official before Redstone does something we cannot come back from. They ate quickly, beans and cornbread coffee so strong it could wake the dead. Then they saddled fresh horses and prepared to ride. That was when the unexpected visitor arrived, a single rider approaching from the west, female young riding a fine chestnut mare. She wore a split riding skirt and a jacket too expensive for ranch country. As she drew closer, Ayanna recognized her from town, Catherine Redstone, Silas Redstone's daughter. Everyone went tense. Hands moved toward weapons. The girl stopped 30 feet out, raised her hands, palms forward. Please, I am not here to fight. I am here to help. Help? Sam's voice was skeptical. You are Redstone's daughter. I am, which is why I know what he is planning, and why I brought you this. She reached slowly into her saddlebag and withdrew a small wooden box. She dismounted, walked forward, carefully set the box on the ground, then stepped back. Sam approached cautiously, picked it up, opened it. Inside were letters, at least 20 of them. He pulled one out, unfolded, it began to read. His face went white. What is it? Ayanna asked. Letters from Redstone to the land office, offering bribes, specific amounts. $5,000 to alter the survey, $3,000 to delay any disputes, $2,000 to misfile opposing claims. He looked up at Catherine. These are signed, dated. This is everything we need. Catherine's face was pale but determined. My father has been doing this for 5 years, ever since my brother died. He used to be a good man. Now he is, she swallowed hard, now he is someone I do not recognize. Why are you doing this? Ayanna asked gently. Because Michael, my brother, would not have wanted this. He was killed in an Apache raid. It was horrible. It broke my father. But Michael was a good person. He believed in fairness, in justice. If he could see what Papa is doing in his name, he would be ashamed. Tears streaked down her face. She did not wipe them away. If your father finds out you did this, Sam began, he will disown me. Maybe worse, I know. Catherine lifted her chin. But I cannot stand by and watch him destroy innocent people. Not anymore. Use those letters. Take him to court. Stop him. She mounted her horse and rode away before anyone could respond. Rosa broke the silence. That girl just sacrificed everything. Yes, Ayanna said quietly. She did. Sam held the box like it contained diamonds. With these, we have an ironclad case. Redstone cannot deny it, cannot bribe his way out. This is over. Not over, Ayanna corrected, but we have a chance now, a real chance. They rode to La Mesilla, all of them this time, safety in numbers, the evidence too precious to risk. Judge Harrow's office was above the general store. They climbed the narrow stairs and found him already at his desk reviewing papers. Sam laid out everything. The church documents showing the original boundaries, Harrison's statement about the altered survey, and now the damning evidence. Catherine's letters. Harrow read them all. Twice. Then he sat back, removed his spectacles, and rubbed his eyes. This is a goddamn mess. His voice was heavy with weariness. Excuse my language, ladies. We have heard worse, Rosa said. I am sure you have. He put his spectacles back on. You understand what you are asking me to do. Silas Redstone is not just wealthy. He has connections all the way to the territorial governor. He could make my life very difficult. We understand, Ayanna said, but we also believe you are an honest man, and honest men are rare. Harrow smiled faintly. flattery, and evidence. A compelling combination. He stood, walked to his window, looked out at the dusty street below. All right, I am scheduling a preliminary hearing. August 15th, 10 days from now. Both parties present evidence. I will determine if there is sufficient cause for a full trial. And the evidence we brought, it is strong, very strong. Redstone will bring lawyers, good ones. They will try to discredit the letters, claim they are forgeries, attack the witnesses. But if everyone holds firm, I believe justice will be served. He turned back to face them. One more thing. If I hear of any intimidation, any violence, any threats against witnesses before this hearing, I will issue arrest warrants immediately, and I do not care who the warrants are for. Clear? Clear. Then we are adjourned, for now. He extended his hand to Ayanna. Good luck, Mrs. Chatto. I think you are going to need it. As they left the office and descended the stairs, they found themselves face to face with Silas Redstone himself. He stood on the street, flanked by two lawyers in expensive suits. 52 years old, graying, but still imposing. His eyes, when they met Ayanna's, were the saddest she had ever seen. Mrs. Chatto, his voice was cultured, Eastern educated. I understand you have been busy, defending what is mine. What you believe is yours. There is a difference. He paused. I know you are Apache, or half Apache, yes. My son was killed by Apache, Chiricahua Raiders. 5 years ago. He was 15 years old. Redstone's voice caught. Did you know that I heard? And I am truly sorry. No parent should lose a child. No, they should not. He looked away toward the mountains. But some of us do. And when we do, the world stops making sense. We look for meaning, for purpose, for a way to make sure it never happens to anyone else. By stealing land from innocent people, by bringing civilization to a savage territory, by making it safe, controlled, predictable. He turned back to her. You cannot understand. You are one of them. I am a mother who lost a son, just like you lost yours. That makes us the same, not different. For a moment something flickered in Redstone's eyes. Recognition, shared pain. Then it hardened again. We are not the same, and we never will be. He nodded to his lawyers. I will see you in court, Mrs. Chatto, and may the best case win. He walked away, his entourage following. Sam watched him go. He almost seemed human there for a second. He is human, Ayanna said. That is what makes him dangerous. Monsters are easy to fight. But men who believe they are doing good, they will justify anything. They returned to the ranch to find an astonishing sight. 30 people, maybe more, all camped in the yard. Families from the Mexican community, a few white ranchers, even 2 Apache men who had left the reservation risking arrest to be here. Don Felipe, the old Mexican rancher who had spoken up before, approached. We heard about the hearing. We heard Redstone is going to fight this in court. We want to help. How? Ayanna asked, overwhelmed. Witnesses, all of us have stories. Cattle that disappeared and showed up with Redstone's brand. Forced sales at pennies on the dollar. Threats. Violence. If the judge hears from all of us, he cannot ignore it. Rosa stepped forward, surveying the crowd. This is more than I expected. We are weary of being afraid, Don Felipe said simply. 1 person standing alone is a target. 10 people standing together is a wall. 30 people, that is a fortress. Over the next week, they prepared like soldiers before a great battle. Sam drilled the witnesses on courtroom procedure, how to answer questions directly, how to stay calm under cross-examination, how to tell the truth without embellishment. Ayanna practiced her opening statement over and over until she could deliver it without notes, with passion and precision. Rosa organized schedules, who would testify when, who would watch the ranch, who would provide food. Tomas and the other men reinforced the defenses again. Even with the court case pending, they did not trust Redstone to play fair. In the evenings, the community gathered for meals. Families shared food stories, hope. Children played in the yard, their laughter a sound that had been absent too long. Nady thrived. She ran with the other children, spoke more, smiled more. One evening, she came to Ayanna with a question. "If we win, will we stay here forever?" "I hope so. This land is your home now, if you want it to be." "I do, because you are here, and Papa is here, and everyone is here." She paused. "It is like having a big family." "Yes, it is exactly like that." That night, the night before the hearing, Ayanna could not sleep. She sat on the porch wrapped in a shawl, watching the stars wheel overhead. Sam found her there. He sat without asking, the way people do who have earned the right to share silence. After a while, Ayanna spoke. "I forgot what my son's face looked like. It has only been 3 years, and I cannot remember his face clearly anymore." Sam was quiet for a moment. "Then you remember his laugh, though." "How do you know?" "Because when Nady laughs a certain way, you smile. I have seen it. That is him, still with you." Ayanna closed her eyes against sudden tears. "I failed him. I should have saved him." "You did everything humanly possible. Sometimes diseases cannot be cured by will or love. Sometimes children die and there is no reason and no one to blame. Do you believe that I am trying to, about my wife, about the 10 minutes that made the difference between her living and dying?" His voice roughened. "I tell myself I did my best. Some days I believe it. Most days I do not." "Then how do you keep going?" He gestured toward the house where Nady slept peacefully. "Because someone still needs me, and maybe that is enough to build a life on, not forgetting, just finding a new reason to wake up in the morning." Ayanna reached out and took his hand. He squeezed back. They sat like that, hand in hand under the stars, until the first gray light of dawn touched the eastern horizon. Tomorrow they would go to court. Tomorrow they would face Redstone and his lawyers and his money and his grief twisted into vengeance. Tomorrow they would find out if justice was real or just another beautiful lie. But tonight, for these last few hours, they had each other. They had hope. They had a community willing to stand with them. And in a land as hard and unforgiving as this, that was its own kind of miracle. August 15th, 1883 dawned clear and merciless. The sun rose over La Mesilla like a judgment, turning the sky from purple to copper to burning white in the space of an hour. By the time Ayanna, Sam, Nady, and their small army of witnesses reached the town, the heat was already brutal, the kind that made men question their resolve, and women reach for deeper wells of strength. The courthouse was not truly a courthouse, just the largest room in the territorial building, normally used for town meetings and grain storage. Today, it had been transformed. Rough benches faced a raised platform where Judge Harrow would preside, a table for each side, standing room only for observers. More than 100 people had gathered, maybe closer to 200. They spilled out onto the street, crowding windows and doorways, straining to see and hear. This was more than a land dispute now. This had become a referendum on power itself. The crowd separated naturally into two camps. On the left, Redstone's people, wealthy ranchers, businessmen in suits, officials from Santa Fe. They radiated confidence and entitlement, the assurance of people who had never lost anything important. On the right, Ayanna's supporters, Mexican families, poor white ranchers, a handful of Chinese who worked the laundries, and, most surprising, 6 Apache men and women who had come despite the risk of arrest. They wore the faces of people who had everything to lose and nothing left to fear. Nady clutched Ayanna's hand as they entered. The girl had insisted on coming, and neither Ayanna nor Sam had the heart to refuse. She wore her best dress, the doll, tucked into a small bag at her waist. As they walked through the crowd, Nady whispered, "Are all these people here for you?" "For us," Ayanna corrected. "For everyone who has been pushed down and told they do not matter." They took their seats at the plaintiff's table. Sam sat next to Ayanna, his presence solid and reassuring. Behind them, Rosa Tomas, Don Felipe, and 24 others who would testify. At the other table, Silas Redstone sat flanked by 3 lawyers. The lead attorney was a man named Sullivan, 50 years old, with silver hair and a reputation for never losing. He wore a suit that cost more than most men earned in a year. Redstone himself looked older than he had a week ago, grayer, more worn. His daughter's betrayal had taken something out of him, but his eyes, when they met Ayanna's across the room, still held iron determination. Judge Harrow entered from a side door. Everyone stood. He was wearing his formal robes, black and severe, his face set in the expression of a man who knew he was about to make enemies, no matter what he decided. "Be seated." His voice carried authority. "We are here today for a preliminary hearing in the matter of Ayanna Chatto versus Silas Redstone regarding disputed land boundaries in Silver Creek Valley. This is not a trial. This is a hearing to determine whether there is sufficient evidence to warrant a full trial." He looked at both tables. "I will hear evidence from both sides. I will question witnesses. At the end, I will make a determination. My decision is final and can only be appealed to the Territorial Supreme Court, which takes a minimum of 6 months." Sullivan stood. "Your Honor, before we begin, I would like to move to dismiss this case on the grounds that Mrs. Chatto, as an Apache woman, does not have legal standing to own land under the Homestead Act." A murmur ran through the crowd. Ayanna felt her stomach drop. Judge Harrow's eyes went cold. Counselor Mrs. Chatto inherited the land from her late husband, Thomas Hartley, a white American citizen who purchased the land legally. Under common law, widows inherit their husband's property. This is established precedent. Your motion is denied. Sit down." Sullivan sat, but he was smiling slightly. He had made his point, planting the seed of doubt. Harrow gestured to Ayanna. "Mrs. Chatto, you are representing yourself. You may give your opening statement." Ayanna stood. Her hands were shaking. She pressed them flat against the table until they stopped. Then she turned to face the room. "My name is Ayanna Chatto. I am the widow of Thomas Hartley. I am the mother of a son who died 3 years ago. I am half Apache and half white. I am American and I am other. I do not fit cleanly into anyone's idea of who should own land or have rights." She paused, letting the words settle. "But I am here today because I believe in something simple. The law, not the law as it is bought and sold, not the law as it is twisted to serve the powerful, but the law as it was written, fair, clear, applied equally." She picked up the church documents, held them high enough for everyone to see. "This is a land deed from 1821, Spanish Crown grant, before Mexico, before America. It shows clear boundaries. It shows that the land I live on, including Willow Springs, has been privately owned for 62 years. She set it down, picked up the survey document. "This is the official American survey from 1874. Same boundaries. Not changed, not adjusted, the same." Now she picked up the altered Land Office record. "This is the current record from the Land Office, dated 1883. The boundaries have been changed, moved, redrawn to take my water and give it to Mr. Redstone, but look closely." She walked to Judge Harrow's bench, set it down in front of him. Different ink, different handwriting, different paper stock. This document has been altered, forged, changed to steal land from a widow. The room erupted in whispers. Harrow banged his gavel once. Silence fell. Ayanna returned to her table. "I have witnesses who will testify to this forgery. I have evidence of bribery. I have proof that Silas Redstone has been systematically stealing land across this territory by corrupting the very systems meant to protect us." She looked directly at Redstone. "My husband built our home with his own hands. My son is buried under a cottonwood tree on that land. I have bled for it, worked for it, defended it, and I will not let it be taken by lies and money." She sat down. The room was silent. Even Redstone's supporters looked uncertain. Sullivan stood slowly adjusting his cuffs. "That was very moving, Mrs. Chatto, very emotional, but emotion is not evidence. And evidence is what this court requires. He began to pace, his voice smooth and reasonable. Let us talk about facts. Fact 1. Land boundaries are complex. Surveys change as technology improves. What looked like one boundary in 1821 might be recognized as different in 1883. This is normal. This is expected. Fact 2. My client Silas Redstone is a respected member of this community. He has built schools, repaired roads, employed hundreds of people. He is not a thief. He is a businessman operating within the law. Fact 3. The supposed evidence of forgery is speculation, different ink. Perhaps the clerk simply ran out and used a different bottle, different handwriting. Perhaps a different clerk made the entry, different paper. Perhaps the original was damaged and had to be replaced. He turned to face Ayanna. What Mrs. Chatto is really asking this court to do is to overturn legitimate business transactions because she does not like the outcome. That is not how law works. That is not how civilization works. He sat down, confident. Judge Harrow looked at Ayanna. Call your first witness. I call Harrison, clerk of the land office. Harrison stood from the back of the room. He looked like a man walking to his own execution. His face was pale, his hands trembling, but he walked forward and took the witness chair. Sam stood to question him. Judge Harrow had allowed it, as Sam was technically an advisor, not an attorney. State your name and occupation. John Harrison. I am the clerk of the land office in Las Cruces. How long have you held that position? 12 years. In those 12 years, have you ever altered an official land record? Harrison's voice was barely audible. Yes. How many times? I do not know exactly. Maybe a dozen. And why did you alter these records? Harrison closed his eyes. When he opened them, tears streaked down his face. Because I was paid to, or threatened, sometimes both. The room exploded. Harrow's gavel banged 3 times before order was restored. Sam continued, his voice, gentle but relentless. Who paid you? Different people, mostly agents working for large landowners. Did any of those agents work for Silas Redstone? Yes. How many times did you alter records on behalf of Mr. Redstone or his agents? 7 times, that I can remember clearly. And the record showing Willow Springs on Mr. Redstone's land. Did you alter that record? Yes, 6 weeks ago. A man came to my office, gave me $500 cash, told me to redraw the boundary line, told me if I refused my family would be hurt. Sam picked up the signed statement Harrison had given them. Is this your signature? Yes. And you stand by what you wrote, that the record was falsified? I do. God help me, I do. Sullivan shot to his feet. Objection. This witness has just admitted to multiple felonies. He is a self-confessed criminal. His testimony is worthless. Harrow leaned forward. Counselor criminals can testify about crimes they witnessed or participated in. That is how we catch the people who ordered the crimes. Overruled. Continue. Sam returned to his seat. No further questions. Sullivan approached Harrison like a wolf approaching wounded prey. Mr. Harrison, you admit you are a criminal, a forger, a man who takes bribes. Yes. And you expect this court to believe you now, after 12 years of corruption? I expect nothing. I am just telling the truth. The truth. How convenient that your truth serves Mrs. Chatto's case. Sullivan's voice dripped sarcasm. Did she pay you to testify? No. Threaten you? No. Then why are you suddenly so honest? Harrison looked up, meeting Sullivan's eyes. Because I am exhausted from lying, weary of being afraid, sick of looking at my daughters and knowing I am teaching them that honesty does not matter. His voice broke. My youngest is 6. She asked me last week if I was a good man. I could not answer her, so I am answering now, in front of God and everyone. I am not a good man, but maybe I can stop being a bad one. The room was silent. Even Sullivan seemed at a loss for words. Harrow spoke quietly. Mr. Harrison, after this hearing, you will be arrested and charged with forgery and accepting bribes. You understand that, yes, Your Honor, and you still choose to testify. I do. Then you may step down. Ayanna called 6 more witnesses that morning. Don Felipe testified about how Redstone's men had driven his cattle off a cliff, then claimed they were stolen. A white rancher named Cooper told how Redstone had bought his land for 1/10 its value after mysterious fires destroyed his barn. Rosa spoke about her husband's death, her voice steady but her eyes fierce. Each story added another brick to the wall of evidence. By noon, when Harrow called a recess, Redstone's confident facade had cracked. He conferred urgently with his lawyers, his voice too low to hear, but his agitation clear. Outside in the shade of the courthouse overhang, Ayanna and her supporters gathered. Someone had brought water and bread. They shared it communally, a small moment of peace in the battle. Nady leaned against Ayanna. Are we winning? I think so. Maybe. It is hard to tell. Sam crouched next to the girl. What do you think you have been watching? I think the judge believes us, but I think he is scared. Sam and Ayanna exchanged glances, out of the mouths of children. You are right, Sam said. He does believe us, and he is scared, because believing us means going against a very powerful man. That takes courage. Do you think he has courage? We are about to find out. The afternoon session began with Redstone's defense. Sullivan called character witnesses, the mayor of Las Cruces, who praised Redstone's civic contributions, a priest who spoke of his generous donations, a territorial senator who called him a pillar of the community. Then Sullivan called Redstone himself. The man took the stand with dignity. He placed his hand on the Bible, swore to tell the truth, and sat with his back straight and his face composed. Sullivan began gently. Mr. Redstone, how long have you lived in this territory? 22 years. I came here as a young man, built my first ranch from nothing. And your family? My wife died in childbirth. My daughter Catherine is 19. My son Michael was killed 5 years ago by Apache raiders. His voice caught. He was 15. I am sorry for your loss. Thank you. Mr. Redstone, did you bribe John Harrison to alter land records? No. Did you threaten his family? No. Did you order anyone in your employ to do so? Absolutely not. I run a legitimate business. I purchase land legally. If boundaries are unclear, I rely on official surveys. That is what they are for. The prosecution has painted you as some kind of land baron stealing from innocent people. How do you respond? Redstone leaned forward, his voice passionate. I am trying to build something here. This territory is wild, dangerous. My son died because it was not safe. I want to change that. I want to bring railroads, schools, law, and order. Yes, I buy land. Yes, I consolidate holdings, but I do it legally. Because civilization requires large-scale investment. You cannot build a railroad by negotiating with 100 small landowners. You need vision. You need capital. You need someone willing to take risks. It was a good answer, too good. Rehearsed. Sam stood for cross-examination. Mr. Redstone, you say you operate legally. Can you explain why 7 different land records were altered in your favor over the past 3 years? I cannot explain errors made by the land office. 7 identical errors, all benefiting you. That is quite a coincidence. I suppose it is. Did you know Harrison was corrupt? I did not. But you benefited from his corruption. If the records are incorrect, I will abide by whatever the court decides. Sam pulled out the box of letters Catherine had provided. Do you recognize these? Redstone's face went white. Where did you get those? Answer the question. Do you recognize them? Those are private correspondence. They are letters detailing bribes you paid to various officials, signed by you, dated, with specific amounts. Sam selected one. This letter offers $5,000 to alter the Willow Springs survey. Your signature is at the bottom. Sullivan jumped up. Those letters were obtained illegally. They cannot be admitted as evidence. Harrow held up his hand. Where did you get these letters, Mr. Bridger? They were given to me by someone who had legal access to them. By whom? Sam hesitated. He did not want to expose Catherine, but Harrow was waiting. Before he could answer, a voice came from the back of the room. By me! Catherine Redstone stood. She was wearing a simple gray dress, her face pale but determined. She walked forward through the crowd. Redstone half rose from his seat. Catherine, no. She ignored him. She walked to the witness chair. I took those letters from my father's office. I gave them to Mr. Bridger. They are real. The room erupted into chaos. Harrow banged his gavel repeatedly. Sullivan was shouting about chain of custody and privileged documents. Redstone was staring at his daughter with a mixture of heartbreak and fury. Harrow finally restored order. Miss Redstone, you understand what you are doing. I do your honor. Why? Catherine looked at her father. When she spoke, her voice carried across the silent room. Because Michael died believing in justice, not vengeance. He would weep to see how his death has been used to justify cruelty. I cannot honor his memory by staying silent while innocent people suffer. Tears rolled down her face. I loved my brother, I love my father, but I cannot let this continue. She held up one of the letters. These are real. Papa wrote them. Papa signed them. Papa ordered the bribes, the threats, the violence. I know because I heard him. I saw him. And I can no longer pretend I do not know. Redstone stood, his face twisted with anguish. Catherine, you do not understand what you have done. Everything I did was for us, for our family, to make sure we were never hurt again. No, Papa. Her voice was soft but firm. You did it because you were hurt, and instead of healing you hurt others. That is not justice. That is just pain spreading like disease. She turned back to Harrow. I will testify to whatever you need. I will tell everything I know, not because I want to hurt my father, but because someone has to stop him before he destroys more lives. Redstone sank back into his chair. In that moment he looked 100 years old. Harrow removed his glasses, cleaned them slowly. When he spoke, his voice was heavy. I am calling a recess until tomorrow morning. I need to review the evidence, all of it. This court is adjourned. That evening, back at the ranch, no one felt like celebrating. They had won the day, but at what cost? A daughter had betrayed her father. A family had been destroyed in public. Ayanna found Catherine sitting alone under the cottonwood tree, staring at the two graves. Your son? Catherine asked. And my husband. I am sorry. So am I, for many things. Ayanna sat beside her. What you did today took courage. It took desperation. There is a difference. No, there is not. Ayanna was quiet for a moment. My son died of fever. There was nothing I could do. Your brother died in violence. There was nothing you could do, but we both have to live with the after, and we get to choose what we do with it. Papa chose revenge, and you chose justice. That is the difference that matters. Catherine wiped her eyes. I do not have anywhere to go now. He will never forgive me. Then you stay here until you do. I could not impose. It is not an imposition. It is family. The family we choose when the one we are born with fails us. Inside the house, Sam was teaching Nady a card game. Rosa was cooking. Tomas was cleaning rifles. It was domestic and strange and beautiful. That night, Ayanna lay awake listening to the sounds of her full house. Catherine in the small room that had been storage. Nady in what had been her son's room. Sam sleeping on the floor of the main room, refusing the bed, saying he had slept on worse. She thought about family, about how it was not always blood. Sometimes it was choice. Sometimes it was necessity. Sometimes it was just people standing together because standing alone was too hard. Tomorrow, Judge Harrow would make his decision. Tomorrow they would learn if the law was strong enough to defeat money and power. Tomorrow everything would change. But tonight she had this. A house full of people who mattered, and a child's laughter, a man's quiet presence, a young woman's courage. It was enough. Whatever came next, this moment was enough. Judge Harrow delivered his verdict at 10 o'clock the following morning. The courtroom was even more crowded than before. Word had spread. This was not just about land anymore. This was about whether the law meant anything to anyone who was not rich and white and powerful. Harrow entered, and the room fell silent. He carried a sheaf of papers, his decision written out. His face revealed nothing. I have reviewed all the evidence presented in this case. The testimony of witnesses, the documentary evidence, the letters provided by Miss Catherine Redstone. He paused. What I have found disturbs me greatly. He looked directly at Silas Redstone. Mr. Redstone, you have systematically corrupted the land office, bribed officials, and used threats of violence to steal land from honest people. The evidence is overwhelming, undeniable. He shifted his gaze to Ayanna. Mrs. Chatta, your land boundaries are clear. The original Spanish grant, the American survey, and your husband's deed all agree. The alteration of the land office records was criminal fraud. Willow Springs is yours, has always been yours, will remain yours. A cheer went up from Ayanna's supporters. Harrow banged his gavel. I am not finished. He turned back to Redstone. Mr. Redstone, you are hereby fined $10,000. You are prohibited from owning or purchasing land within 50 miles of Silver Creek Valley, and I am referring this matter to the U.S. Marshal's Office for Criminal Prosecution on charges of bribery, conspiracy, and forgery. Sullivan stood. Your Honor, we will appeal. That is your right. But my decision stands until and unless the Territorial Supreme Court overturns it, which, given the evidence, I find unlikely. Harrow fixed Redstone with a hard stare. You allowed grief to turn you into the very thing that took your son. Raiders who take what they want by force. There is no honor in that, no justice, just pain spreading across the land like wildfire. Redstone said nothing. He simply stood, turned, and walked out. His lawyers hurried after him. Catherine did not follow. She stayed in her seat, hands folded, tears streaming silently down her face. Harrow addressed the room one final time. Let this be a lesson to everyone. The law is not for sale. Not in my courtroom. Not in this territory. Dismissed. The crowd erupted. People were cheering, crying, embracing. Don Felipe lifted his hat and shouted in Spanish. Rosa grabbed Ayanna and pulled her into a fierce hug. Nady climbed onto Sam's shoulders, laughing. We won, Mama. We won. Ayanna heard it. The word. Mama. Not just in private. In public. Claiming her. Choosing her. She reached up and took Nady's hand. Yes, baby. We won. Outside the courthouse, the celebration continued. Someone had brought whiskey. Someone else had food. It turned into an impromptu fiesta in the middle of the street, the whole community letting out months, years of suppressed fear and rage and hope. But Ayanna found herself pulled away from it, walking toward the edge of town where the desert began. Sam followed, giving her space but staying close. She stopped at a rise overlooking the valley. From here she could see for miles the land she had fought for, the land her husband had chosen, the land where her son was buried. What are you thinking? Sam asked. That it is not over. Redstone will appeal, his lawyers will find ways to delay, to challenge. This could go on for years. Probably, but you won today. The judge ruled in your favor. That is not nothing. No, it is not nothing. She turned to face him. Thank you. For everything. For staying. For fighting. For teaching Natty and protecting us and believing this was possible when I did not. You gave us a home when we had none. That is worth fighting for. They stood in silence, watching the celebration below. After a while, Ayanna spoke again. What will you do now? Now that the immediate danger has passed, Sam did not answer right away. When he did, his voice was careful. What do you want me to do? I want... She stopped, started again. I have been alone for so long. I thought that was how it had to be, that I did not deserve anything else, that wanting more was selfish or foolish or both. And now I am tired of being alone. Now I have a house full of people, and it does not feel crowded. It feels right. She looked at him. Stay, please, not as a hired hand, Not as someone passing through, as family. Family. If you want, I am not asking for... She trailed off, suddenly awkward. I am not asking for anything you are not ready to give. But Nady needs stability, and I need... She laughed a bit desperately. I do not even know what I need. I just know I do not want you to leave. Sam stepped closer, close enough that she could see the silver threads in his hair, the scars on his hands, the lines around his eyes. I am not leaving. I told myself I was drifting, looking for work, looking for a place to winter. But that was a lie. I was looking for a reason to stop, for something that mattered. He reached out, gently took her hand. I found it. I found you. And Nady found a mother. And maybe if you are willing, we could stop pretending we are just people who happen to live under the same roof. What would we be instead? A family. The real kind. Not the legal kind or the convenient kind. The kind you choose and build and fight for. Ayanna felt tears on her face. She did not wipe them away. I would like that, very much. He smiled. Good, because Nady asked me this morning if I was going to marry you, and I did not know what to tell her. What did you say? I said I would ask you in a year, when we had time to be sure. A year. You said you needed to know it was not just fear or loneliness, that it was real. I respect that. I can wait. She laughed through her tears. You are a patient man, Sam Bridger. I have learned to be. They walked back to the celebration, hand in hand. The next 3 months passed in a blur of work and small miracles. The ranch thrived. With Rosa and Tomas living on adjacent land with Don Felipe and others checking in regularly, the sense of isolation vanished. They were part of a community now, protected, supported. Catherine stayed. She helped with the house, with Nady's lessons, with anything that needed doing. She never spoke of her father. Ayanna did not push. Some wounds needed time. Nady bloomed. She gained weight color in her cheeks. She learned to read more fluently. She helped with the animals, and every night she climbed into Ayanna's lap for a story and a song. One evening in November, as winter approached and the air finally cooled, Chis returned. He appeared at sunset as he always did, materializing from the shadows like smoke taking shape. He looked older, more worn, but his eyes were still sharp. He spoke to Ayanna in Apache. She responded in kind, the language coming more easily now that she used it regularly with the Apache families who visited. He handed her a small doeskin pouch. Inside was a silver necklace, simple, beautiful, ancient. Your mother's, he said in English so Sam would understand. I kept it safe when she died, waiting for you to be ready. I am ready. You have protected the land. You have built a new tribe. You have honored the old ways while living in the new world. He touched her shoulder. You are your mother's daughter. Finally. He left without another word, disappearing into the gathering dark. Ayanna put on the necklace. The silver was warm against her skin. She felt connected to something larger than herself, a line stretching back through generations, and forward to Nady and whatever children might come. That night, after Nady was asleep, Sam asked Ayanna to walk with him. They went to the cottonwood tree, to the 2 graves that had been there when this all started. I have been thinking, Sam said, about time, about waiting, about what makes sense. And I think a year is arbitrary. We have been through war together. We have built a life together. We know each other in ways that matter. He turned to face her. So I am asking now, even though it has only been 4 months. Will you marry me? Ayanna had known it was coming, had thought about her answer, but actually hearing the words still made her heart race. Yes, she said, not because I am scared or lonely, but because I love you, and because Nady needs a father who will sign the papers, and because I am tired of explaining to people why we live together but are not married. He laughed. Those are all excellent reasons. Also because you make good coffee and you fix the roof and Nady adores you, and I cannot imagine my life without you in it. Better reasons. He kissed her, soft, careful, full of promise. From the house they heard a whoop. Nady was in the window jumping up and down, apparently not as asleep as they had thought. "She is going to be impossible now," Ayanna said. "Probably." "Good. She deserves to be a little impossible." They married in December in a simple ceremony at the ranch. Father Castillo officiated. Half the valley attended. Rosa cried. Tomas got drunk and sang. Catherine smiled, really smiled for the first time since the trial. Nady served as flower girl, taking her duties with utmost seriousness. She wore a new dress, white with blue trim, and carried a basket of winter flowers. At the moment Sam and Ayanna exchanged vows, Nady whispered loudly, "Finally." The crowd laughed. Even Judge Harrow, who had ridden out for the occasion, chuckled. The celebration lasted until dawn. Dancing, music, food. A community celebrating not just a wedding, but a victory. Proof that sometimes, occasionally, the right people won. As the sun rose on their first day as a married couple, Sam and Ayanna stood on the porch watching the light spread across their land. "What do we do now?" Sam asked. "We live, we work, we raise Nady, we help our neighbors, we protect this place." "That is it. That is the plan. That is everything." He put his arm around her. She leaned into him. They stood like that, two people who had lost everything and found something new watching the sun rise on land they had fought to keep. Inward Nady woke. They heard her moving around, talking to her doll, planning her day with the seriousness of a general planning a campaign. "She wants a brother or sister," Sam said. "She asked me yesterday. She told me last week. And maybe, someday, when we are ready." Ayanna paused. "Are you ready?" "I think so. It is terrifying, but most good things are." They went inside. Nady was at the table eating bread and honey, her doll propped beside her. "Mama, Papa, I am going to teach my doll to read today. She is very behind." "That sounds like an excellent plan," Ayanna said. "And then can we go see the horses? And then can we visit Rosa? And then can we—" "Yes, to all of it. But first, more breakfast." It was ordinary, domestic, beautiful. This was what they had fought for. Not just land, not just water, but this. The right to live ordinary lives. To raise a child. To grow old together. To be safe. As Ayanna watched Nady eat, watched Sam pour a coffee, watched the morning light fill her home, she thought about her son, about Thomas, about her mother, about everyone she had lost. She did not forget them, would never forget them, but she had learned that honoring the dead did not mean refusing to live. The land endured, the water flowed, the sun rose. And Ayanna Chato Apache, and white widow and wife, survivor and fighter, stood at the center of it all and chose to keep going. That was the victory, not the courtroom, not the verdict, just this, day after day, choosing to continue. Epilogue. In the years that followed, Silver Creek Ranch became a waypoint for those who needed it. Families fleeing persecution, workers needing employment, Apache leaving the reservation and seeking a different path. Sam and Ayanna had two more children, a son in 1886, a daughter in 1889. Catherine opened a school, the first in the territory, to teach both English and Apache. She never married, never reconciled with her father, but she found her own kind of peace. Brady Crane disappeared after the trial. Some said he rode to California. Others claimed Redstone had him killed for his betrayal. The truth was never known. But his decision that night to refuse the torches saved lives. That had to count for something. John Harrison served 2 years in territorial prison for forgery. Upon release, he moved his family to Colorado and became a clerk for a mining company. He wrote to Ayanna once, thanking her for giving him the courage to tell the truth. She wrote back, "Courage is not the absence of fear. It is doing right, despite it." Rosa and Tomas Mendoza built a thriving ranch adjacent to Silver Creek. Rosa became a midwife, delivering half the babies born in the valley for the next 30 years. She and Ayanna remained best friends until Rosa's death in 1923. Nady grew up strong and fierce. She became a nurse, serving during the Spanish-American War and later in World War I. She treated white soldiers and Apache warriors with equal care. When asked once where she learned such compassion, she said simply, "My mother taught me that all suffering matters, that all lives have value." Silas Redstone died in 1890, alone, bitter. His empire had crumbled after the trial. The railroad came through, but on different land negotiated fairly with communities rather than stolen from widows. Judge Harrow served until 1900, then retired. He wrote in his memoirs that the Chatto case was the one he was most proud of. "Not because I was wise," he wrote, "but because I was brave enough to listen to someone the world told me did not matter." Silver Creek Ranch remained in the family for 4 generations. The house Sam and Thomas built still stands. The cottonwood tree still shades the graves. In 1948, the state of New Mexico placed a historical marker there. It reads, "Silver Creek Ranch, established 1876, home of Ayanna Chatto, Apache defender of land rights. Her victory in Chatto versus Redstone 1883 established precedent for indigenous land ownership and challenged corrupt land practices throughout the territory. One woman standing for justice, one community standing with her, one ruling that changed the law." And beneath that, a quote, the one most remembered from the trial. "We do not inherit the land from our ancestors. We borrow it from our children." No one remembers who said it first, but everyone remembers that Ayanna Chatto lived it. The water still flows, the sun still rises, the land endures, and on clear nights when the wind moves through the cottonwood branches, some say you can still hear it, the sound of a woman singing to her children, the sound of hope surviving, the sound of home.